Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with thematic transformations in Mahler's Ninth. Yes, Mahler's Ninth. Now, this is, I think, a wonderful example of something that we need to be careful about. The thing that we need to be careful about is that some pieces are so tightly constructed and there are only 12 notes in a scale and only so many noises you can make with an orchestra that sometimes you get to a point where everything just sounds like everything else. And we don't want to go there. We really don't. Every time there's a flute going wheek or a timpani thwack, that doesn't mean that the composer is evoking the previous thwip or thwack. It doesn't happen that way. There has to be some sort of compelling, expressive point to what's going on, not just a mere resemblance. Because, I mean, one of the wonderful things about these pieces is that there are lots of resemblances. We tend to hear what an orchestra sounds like as what an orchestra sounds like, and so everything sounds like everything else, right? Let's take a step back and a deep breath, because some of the things that matter are, the ones that I'd like to discuss, as opposed to mere coincidences or, quotidian happenstance. So anyway, we're talking about Mahler's Ninth, and in this case, we're talking about a particular fact that I would like to ram home, which is the way in which the concluding Adagio acts as a summation of the prior three movements, because there are a lot of senses in which Mahler's Ninth, although everybody loves it now and thinks it's like really cool, it isn't always well understood why that big, long, slow movement is a true finale, a true summation of the entire expressive journey that the symphony is, takes us on. And so I just would like to show you in this particular example, because we could spend years on this symphony, is the way in which all of the material, and I do mean all of the material in this finale, originates earlier on in the symphony. It's a transformation of themes that we've heard before, of ideas that we've heard before, in ways which are so startling in some respects that you would never expect it. And actually, I think, in one case at least, nobody has pointed it out previously, although I'm not familiar with everything in the Mahler literature. But I do think that there are some extraordinary, rather readily audible, I think, sort of facts about this finale that have yet to be discussed. So I'm going to discuss a couple of them. So there are three prime examples, because the finale has essentially three main thematic components. Now, the first one, as you know, this Adagio is that gorgeous, lovely, consoling, sad, elegiac, whatever you want to call it, opening theme. Ya da 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 da. It's a hymn tune. It's a beautiful hymn tune. Some have noted a resemblance to the Salvation Army tunes, or other sappy Victorian parlor songs, which of course is always part of the point with Mahler. You're never quite sure whether it's just sublime or whether he's being tacky, and it could be both. I mean, that's part of the glory that is Mahler. But anyway, it's a wonderfully beautiful theme. And here with Marcus Stentz, the Gerzenich Orchestra Köln on is that theme. I want you to hear that theme. Here it is. Now, we have heard that theme before. Where have we heard that theme before? Well, excuse me, believe it or not, that theme is the second and most demented dance, it's a waltz, from the second movement, which is a concatenation of grotesquerie. I mean, it's a dorky peasant dance to start with, then it's a mad, twisted, demented waltz, then it's a more consoling Ländler and rather relaxed thing. But that demented waltz is the theme of the Adagio. Yum bum ba dum bum ba dum bum ba da 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 dum ba da 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 da. That's the theme. Especially this do 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 do. I mean, that the melodic turn plays an epic role in the entire symphony, actually, and we'll hear more about that in a momentito. But that waltz, dum bum ba dum bum bum bum. Pay attention to the opening of it, and then that Adagio, ya da 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 da. It's the same tone, and here it is. Now, what could be more transformative than turning that twisted waltzy thing into this beautiful, consoling, spiritual bit of hymn music? And it could be that the possibility of tackiness, of sort of sentimentality, is a remnant of the grotesque plebeian origins of that waltz. I don't know. It's up to you to judge. But that is one of the most remarkable thematic transformations in all of music. It's really, really astonishing, I think. Absolutely incredible. And I had mentioned that melodic turn, do 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 do. It first appears at the climax of the first movement, at the section before the big final collapse, where Mahler marks it, with the highest power. The trumpet goes, ya da 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 ba da 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 da. Then it all goes collapse, bang with the gong. You know the passage I mean, possibly. If you don't know it, go listen to the first movement. We're not going to play it here, because much more importantly, the next place we encounter that little melodic turn is in the rondo burlesca, the third movement, where a lot is made of it, because there's this quiet central section with a very, very sweet trumpet solo, actually echoing the trumpet in the first movement that first plays that ya da 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 da. Yeah, I mean, it's all related in that sense. So I want to play you the bit of the rondo burlesca, the third movement, where we hear this da 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 da, that idea. Here it is. So that little melodic turn has been wending its way through the symphony. It's in that first movement passage. It's all over the demented waltz in the second movement, and in its purest form, as a melody in and of itself, not as part of something else that's going on, we hear it in the rondo burlesca, the third movement, played by the solo trumpet. And we also hear it as the sort of cadence theme, the culmination of that beautiful hymn tune that begins the finale. And here it is in the finale. Now here, the transformation isn't a total change of character from the rondo burlesque. There it's serene and peaceful. Here it's not exactly serene, it's kind of anguished, but it's recognizably the same tune, the same idea. And one of the reasons it pops up where it does, which is at the second statement of the hymn tune in the finale, is that one of Mahler's big constructive principles, and we hear it in the first movement, and we hear it in the finale. We also hear it in the first movement of the Second Symphony constantly. The Third Symphony is, in writing sonata form movements, what Mahler will usually do is throw out a theme, which is the first subject of the idea, and then a second theme, which is the second subject, but in abbreviated form. It's almost a foreshadowing of what's to come. And then he will do what we call a counter statement, which is repeat. It just means repeat what we've heard before. And those counter statements will be more richly elaborated and extended and already sort of quasi-developmental. And that's exactly what happens in this finale, and it happens in the first movement. And you've got the opening hymn, and then you've got a second theme, which we'll get to in a minute. Then the opening theme returns, and this time the first idea ends with that bit from the rondo burlesque. It's lengthened, and that melodic turn, that ya da 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 ya da 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 da, is just it infects the entire movement, one way or another, and all of the tunes. It's there everywhere. But that's where it really comes in, and that's where it comes from. It comes from the third movement. Now, the second subject, the nominal second idea in the finale, is this spooky, creepy, frozen, emotionless, Zen-like groping in the lower reaches of the orchestra, opposed to sort of melodic fragments of the opening theme in the highest registers of the violins. It begins with a bassoon, and then when it comes back again, it's even lower with a contrabassoon. It's that's basically the idea. I did that pretty well, actually. My bassoon voice was working today. It's a miracle. But anyway, that's the thing, and it couldn't be more contrasted from the passion and extraordinary intensity of the main thematic material. This is absolutely frozen and numb emotionally. But that too has its origins earlier in the symphony, and this is the identity that so few people have remarked upon. No one that I've noticed, but maybe. And that's the nominal second subject of the first movement as well. The first movement, remember, it's da 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 da. It's the same thing. Two sort of rises and dips and rises again. Of course, it's fast. It's in the lower strings. It's at the strings. It's not necessarily the lower ones, but in the low position on the strings. It's a dark theme. Let's just put it that way. Who cares where it is? And it's essentially the same idea. The way that these things get extended as Mahler spins out the melodies, of course, it's different. They start to go their own way. But the opening ideas are the same, the opening motives. And so here is, I'm going to play you first this time, let's do the finale version first. I think that would be the best way to do it, shall we? So here is the finale version, the groping, dark, frozen, passionless, creepy second subject. Spooky, desolate. Isn't it remarkable? But it's a transformation of what was the most passionate, motive, disruptive element in the first movement of the whole symphony. And that is a transformation. And it really means something if you notice it. I think it means something. So here is the concept behind this idea, the original form as it appears in the first movement. So what does that mean if you make the connection? See, here's the thing. All of these ideas have their own obvious meaning. You don't have to make the connection. That second subject in the Adagio is as spooky and creepy and desolate and passionate and passionless and lifeless as it could ever be. It automatically makes its own statement. But if you realize that it is a transformation of what had been one of the most eruptive and passionate elements in the entire work, in the first movement, then Mahler's saying something. He's saying here, at this point in our symphonic journey, all of that passion, the prior passion, has just drained away. There's nothing left. It's a skeleton of its former self. And that adds an extra dimension to the act of listening, I think. I mean, it really does. It's not necessary to gather what you need to gather out of Mahler's Ninth Symphony, but it's awfully cool if you're able to make the connection. And again, as I said before in the previous video, that's what makes great music worth listening to, because every time we come back to it, we hear something new or something different, something extraordinary. And it encourages us to keep listening, to keep wanting to make these connections. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not, and we just accept, everything as it comes without question. But in this particular case, I really think that there's planning and behind what Mahler is doing. I think he was very, very well aware of what was going on, and that the main driving force behind the symphony had shifted from what was that incredibly thrusting idea in the first movement to the finale, where that kind of searching and yearning and groping and grasping is gone. It's no more. Instead, what we have is consolation and solace and sadness and a different kind of force, a more elemental, I think, force, a desperate will to survive, if you want to call it that. But it's really an extraordinary thing. So that's just 3 comparisons in Mahler's Ninth, a work which, like I said, is an exhaustible font of such things. We could go on, but I think that this is more than sufficient to give you a sense of how that finale is that Adagio is an enormously rich and complex transformation and summary. It does both. It does both at the same time. That's the miracle of it, of the entire symphonic journey that we've been on for the past, well, by the time the finale comes around, it's been about an hour, and there's going to be another 25 or so minutes to go. So, yeah, it's important when you're writing works of such length that there be some sort of glue that holds them all together, that they retain both freshness from moment to moment, but also this coherence and unity and feeling of being an inevitable process that's being worked out. And that's one of the ways that Mahler does it. So keep on listening, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.